Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mr. Flak Electricity Masterclass. This is episode 2 in a long forgotten series. About 4 months ago I did episode 1. People absolutely loved it. I had many people asking me throughout the many following episodes on my channel, the non-electricity episodes, where is episode 2, where is episode 2? And unfortunately, life got away from me as usual. For example, I had to enroll my daughter in high school, my wife got super pregnant, and I finally reached that 100,000 subscriber milestone. Wow! Thank you very much for that, by the way. But episode 2 is here, it's now, and let's get into some insane amounts of learning. Before we get started, let's recap. Episode 1, I showed you guys the basics of electricity, how to make electricity, how to store electricity, how to calculate consumptions, values, figures, and how to move electricity via the simple basic components. At the end of that episode, I showed you guys how to make an automatic lighting system where it switches off in the day and charges, and at night when it gets too dark it automatically switches on. I highly recommend that you watch episode 1 if you haven't. I'm going to leave a link in the description and on the top right of the screen, because today's episode builds on top of episode 1, so you have to watch episode 1 in order to understand the principles in episode 2. And speaking of episode 2, what we're going to be covering today is all the types of switches. There's many switches and activators in Rust, and we're also going to be discussing logic gates. And finally, like in episode 1 where I showed you the automatic lighting circuits, at the end of this video I'm going to show you guys how to build a self-trapping based mechanism. A very simple and very sneaky circuit you can build in your own base. When someone comes into your trap area, it will trap them like carrots.
What are you telling us, we're trapped like rats?
No, rats can't be trapped this easily. You're trapped like carrots.
I'm sorry, but sticking a shotgun trap on a wall is not a trap. That is a death machine. Catching someone alive and well in a box so that you can, have your fun.
Hello. I want to play a game.
Hello, sir. Promise you're not going to shoot me?
I won't.
That was fucking cold.
Ice cold, bro.
It's fucking cold, dude.
That's a real trap. But before we get into that, I would like to talk to you about the dudes that made today's episode possible. Let's be honest, we're all gamer boys and girls here. There's no denying it. If I'm not on my PC playing games, I'm usually in bed or on the sofa playing mobile games. Dragon Champions is an old school style turn-based RPG game for Android and Apple. It has deep storylines, varieties of battles, guilds, you name it, tons of heroes, an engaging community, and developers that actually care. That's right, developers constantly update the game, they add new features, they even alter existing features like Facepunch does with Rust. And the best part is they don't require you to do microtransactions. That's one of my biggest gripes with modern mobile games, is that you have to basically pay to win. With this game you can actually play normally, you don't have to spend money to get ahead, no obstructive ads, no nothing, you can just progress like normally. It's actually quite epic. If you want to give it a try, check in the description, I've added a link to the game, and I've even included a special promo code so that you can get yourself about $10 worth of in-game loot and a new character, Kraken. Quite a silly name, but I tell you, I'm having an absolute ball with this game, and let me tell you why. Simplicity. Like, if I'm on my mobile, I want a simple game. I want something that's like really easy. I don't want to get into complex systems, complex features. I want to play the game, have a little bit of fun, and then log off, you know what I mean? So like in World of Warcraft, you get 2 types of factions. In this game, you have the Order and you've got clans. Sort of like a good and evil type of separation between the 2 factions. Tons of heroes within those factions. You get your goblins, elves, half-pigs, pride, demon, orcs, goblins, you name it. And in some cases you have the same class joining different factions, sort of like a good and evil version of these demons, for example. And the devs were kind enough to give me a promo code for you guys to try it out. With this code, like I mentioned before, you get $10 worth of very useful in-game loot and that new character Kraken. Kraken's epic because he develops really fast since he has massive AoE damage and AoE stun abilities. This promo code is only available for the first 500 players that have not yet reached level 15. So if you want to try it out, click on the link in the video description below, redeem that promo code, and do me a favor, my dudes, if you do try the game out, let me know what you thought of the game. I would love to engage with you guys. Thank you, Dragon Champions, for reaching out. Now let's get back to the electricity. Now, in Rust, there are tons of switches available. Many switches do many different things and behave in many different ways. I'm going to briefly go over all the switches that Rust has on offer to show you how they activate. Firstly, we have the switch. It is a standard self-explanatory switch. It's exactly the same switch at the entrance of your basement, directly under your mom's house. Next, we have the smart switch. It's exactly the same as the previous switch, except it's controllable via the Rust Android app. Next, we have the timer. The timer works very much like the first 2 switches. It has an input and an output. You can manually activate it. If I activate it, it runs for a pre-described amount of time. If I hold E on the timer, it lets me set a duration. If I set it to 2 and manually activate it using the E key, it'll run for 2 seconds and then automatically switch off. It also has a little toggle on the side which allows electricity to toggle it on and off. So if I give it an electricity source on the toggle side, on the right hand side of that timer, it will automatically activate when it receives some electricity for the predetermined amount of time. Next we have the push button. Once you activate the push button, it allows 5 seconds worth of electricity to flow through it and then automatically deactivates. Next we have a pressure pad. Again, the pressure pad works very much like every other switch. It has an input side for electricity, it has an output side to go to a device, and if I stand on it, it puts it in the on position, and when I stand off of it, it puts it in an off position. And next we have the laser beam. So the laser beam has electricity going into it, and from its output port it goes to an appliance. If I cross the beam, it activates it, and if I get out of the beam, it deactivates the switch. Unlike all the other switches, the pressure pad and the push button do not require an input in order to activate. When I have no input going into the push button and the pressure pad, it momentarily allows a small amount of electricity to flow through it. Not a lot, but the small jolt that it does produce is enough to activate, for example, the toggle side of a timer. That can be used in very clever ways. Another cool feature about the pressure pad that not many people know is that it's completely hideable via a carpet. If I hook it up to the timer and I place a small little carpet over it, you can hide the pressure pad and the cord completely, and it makes for some very interesting traps. Now that we have the switches out of the way, let's talk about logic gates. Now, logic gates are, for lack of a better word, the brains of a circuit. A logic gate takes 2 inputs on the inside and it allows one to flow out, and each different logic gate handles that electricity flow in different ways and in different circumstances. Fortunately, the names do give a little hint as to what they do. The first one we're going to cover is the OR switch, OR switch, and that basically means OR. Now you have a circuit on the left and you've got a circuit on the right. Circuit A and circuit B, that's the input side of the OR switch. And we have one output going to their little blue light. Now what we can do is send electricity into the A side or into the B side. It makes no difference, bearing in mind of that A and B input channels, whichever has the highest amount of electricity is the circuit that will be the master circuit, the dominant one. So if I have, for example, 10 electricity going into side B, and I've got 100 electricity going into side A will be the circuit that ends up powering that blue light and not side B. This OR switch was the brains behind the circuit when I created the unlimited electricity machine. I once designed a base that runs off sunlight during the daytime, and then when the sun goes down, it automatically flipped over to battery power and ran on battery throughout the night, and then back in the morning when the sun rose, it switched automatically back to sunlight, and the OR switch was the brains behind that circuit. I'll leave a link in the video description below and on the top right if you'd like to check out that very interesting circuit. I must say, if you can understand that circuit, you are pretty boss. Now we have the AND switch. The AND switch is described as a logic gate that allows electrical pass-through if both inputs receive power. Pass-through amount is greater of either power source. What this means is you need both A side and B side to receive power in order to power that light. If I send electricity to just the B side, it will do nothing. If I send electricity to just the A side, it would do nothing. I have to power both A and B in order for that flow through to go. And of course, the greater amount, like if I put more electricity through A, would be the side that ends up powering the blue light. And a XOR switch or an XOR switch can be described as the exact opposite of an AND switch. So it's an exclusive logic gate that allows electricity pass through if only one of the input receives power. If you add electricity onto channel A and channel B, the thing shuts down and it blocks power. So you can power it through A or through B, but if you power it through A and B, it cuts the power completely. So the XOR switch or the XOR switch is the actual brains behind the circuit we're building today, which is going to be a self-trapping base mechanism. If you're out farming, all you have to do is activate your little trap, leave your base, and if somebody comes around like a Venus flytrap, it'll capture them and they will be completely powerless yet alive. Okay, let us build a fictitious base real quick. Done. Now at the moment I'm standing inside my fictitious base. Behind the glass panel there is a little 2x1 airlock. It can be a 1x1, makes no difference. I just like to have an extra space there, leading out to a smaller triangle airlock. For this trap we're going to require a standard on and off switch, 3 branches, a door controller, a heartbeat sensor, or a pressure pad or a laser beam sensor, it's up to you. I prefer the heartbeat sensor, a XOR switch or an XOR switch, and of course a timer. The shop panel is placed there so that when I do trap somebody, I can demand that they hand over their weapons before I either kill them or release them. Okay, so we place down the XOR switch and we're going to place down very brashly 3 branches. At the trap door, I'm going to add the door controller. Inside the little chamber over here, I'm going to put a heartbeat sensor up in the corner here. Place down my timer. I'm going to move this one branch up out the way here. This is because I'm going to pretend like I already have an existing power system in place. And at the moment my electricity was already powering, for example, a light source. This branch is going to tap off and allow the other two branches on the rest of the circuit to get electricity so that it's completely separate from my existing electricity. This keeps it neater and it allows you to switch it on and off at will. There goes the standard switch. This allows me to toggle the trap on and off, and I'm going to branch off electricity to the switch. I'm going to set that first branch to 10 because this trap only requires 10 electricity in order to function. From the output side of the switch, I'm going to power the second branch. From the branch outside of the second branch, I'm going to power the third branch. From the output side of the XOR switch, I'm going to very neatly power the door controller. Then from the B channel of the XOR switch, I'm going to connect it to my second branch. Then from the output side of my third branch, I'm going to power the heartbeat sensor. And I'm going to make sure to set this so that it only activates or functions to people that are not authorized on the TC. From the output side of the heartbeat sensor, I'm going to wire it all the way back to the toggle side of the timer, so that when it scans a bad guy, it activates the timer. The timer will then output electricity to the A side of the XOR switch. Once A channel and B channel are activated, like I mentioned before in the demonstration, the entire circuit will cut off. And when it cuts off, it will cut off power to the door controller, and of course the door will then close. Lastly, we're just going to add some power from the third branch to the timer to make sure it functions. We're going to set the timer duration to say 50 million seconds, which works out to 578 days. And that's how long our person will be trapped for. A year and a half. In real time. Okay, let's explain the theory of how the circuit works. I'm going to put a fictitious door controller and heartbeat sensor because you can't see it on this frame. And as the electricity flows already to your lights and you want to start the circuit, you're going to be adding that first branch. That branch is going to be branching off 10 electricity to your first switch. That switch itself is going to use 1 electricity and it's going to output electricity once you activate it to your second branch. That second branch itself will also use 1 electricity and it will output electricity to the B side of the XOR switch, making the B side activate and allowing flow through of electricity to go to your door controller. This will make your door open and it will allow people to enter your base if they have the balls. On that second branch, it also outputs electricity at the same time to your third branch. That third branch uses 1 electricity and it outputs electricity to the heartbeat sensor. When the heartbeat sensor detects an intruder, it will send electricity to the toggle side of the timer, and while that third branch is also powering the timer will toggle on for 578 days. The timer will output electricity. The A and B channel will then activate. Once they activate, the XOR switch will lose power, making the door controller lose power, making the door close. And if they kill themselves, it doesn't matter because the heartbeat sensor made the timer run and now the timer is running for 50 million seconds. Now let's test it in real time. Let's pretend there's somebody sneaking around outside my base. I want to trap him, so I'm going to activate my little trap mechanism. The door opens. I'll go out there making sure that I'm completely naked because I know the guy standing just outside my base has a DB aiming straight at my door. Once I open the door and get my face completely blown off, would-be raider will have the confidence to enter my base and try and go deep. I will now remove my building privilege and pretend like I am some kind of a sneaky cunt boy. I walk up to the base, and because I came out naked, not like this, he won't be able to get any loot. He's thirsty, he's hungry, he wants some juice, so he comes inside. Oh no, he was trapped. And now he's stuck here. There's nothing you can do about it.
You're trapped like carrots.
Now, like I mentioned, you don't have to use the heartbeat sensor. You can use a pressure pad. That hides quite nicely. You can even use one of those push button things. It'll be placed next to the door. They'll think, hey, this opens the door, when in actual fact, it traps them. Aww. One recommendation I have is do build a second airlock with a shotgun trap or a flame turret in case you have difficulty killing them, making sure to place this sensor over here and not over here. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the circuit. I hope it's getting your mind working, and I hope you build some epic things. Thanks for watching. Flak out.
Oh, Mr. Flak, the Flak is back, and we are grateful for that. I hope you know. We watch your stuff on YouTube, oh yeah, and it is lit as fuck. I hope that you know we're gonna sub to you, oh Mr. Flak. Thank you